Okay, so the anisotropic shader is really good for just one type of effect. All right, so here we have this engine turning, it's called, and as you see, the specular highlight is following the little abrasions made by basically a power drill. Anyhow, yeah, so you have this very special pattern, and the highlights move according to that pattern. All right, so and this, as you see, it's these little tiny abrasions in in this wheel that are then giving it this special look and a special type reflection. Okay, as you see, we can't see me taking the picture. um, all right, it's also, so that's what it's meant for. Now we can adapt it. We can use it for stuff like the fur on this dog. As you see, we get that very similar effect there because of all the specular highlights on all the little hairs. Okay, so this is what it's designed to do. This is how we can use it to do things it wasn't quite designed to do. Alrighty, so let's just take a quick look at that. Oops. And yes. Alrighty. So I just have a plane and a ball here. I'm going to create a camera. Sorry, a light. Light. Come on. Give me a directional light. Directional light. All right, and I'm going to put that, since we're dealing with specular highlight, I'm going to put that opposite where the camera is and looking down. Okay, so, all right, so that should give us a decent specular highlight for us to see what we're talking about. Then I'm going to pop over to, of course, our hypershade. And you guys can start using the node editor. I'm used to the hypershade, so that's where I work. All right, so I've just made an anisotropic. All right, so it's a material type. Okay, select the objects, get that assigned, and okay, so now there should be on there. Maybe it didn't take. There we go. And hit the render button. And there we go. So there we're getting that broad specular highlight. Let's zoom in on our buddy the sphere here, and we can start to see that happening. Let's move around maybe a bit. There we go. Okay, so as you see, by now the light's up to the right. I'm getting the effect here. Nothing down on that plane. Okay, so it's very particular to where the light source happens to be. Okay, so let's bring up the attribute editor and take a look at that anisotropic. And okay, so we got our color there. Actually, I'll make that fairly dark and goose this up to a nice white. Take a render. A little darn crazy there. And so, all right, so we have, let's take a quick look at the roughness. As you notice, I'm skipping all this stuff. It's the same as in the other shaders. So this is the thing that's special. And so that's where I'm going to focus our time. All right, so if I take the roughness up to 1, take a render, it's pretty broad. Let's take the roughness down. So that's how rough, as we saw in the photo, you know, those little, or how coarse those little grooves are in the surface. And that's what we're trying to do. Okay, so you play with the roughness. You also play with the Fresnel index. Okay, and so you just, you pick your what you're trying to replicate. You have your reference material, and then you modify these guys accordingly. Alrighty. You have your reflective color that you toss in there, so that would just be, just like with the other guys, your environmental sphere. And into the image, you toss in a background image. Okay, and so that's not going to give us much reflection, mainly because as you saw in the photo, you don't really see too much in the reflection. So that's sort of normal. You can sort of fake things a bit by turning off that reflection, and then you're going to have a more normal reflection blending. But yeah, so you have your anisotropic reflectivity there. As you see, you don't see much. All right, so you play with those guys. Then, all right, you have your X spread and your Y spread. If you're going, wait, will this affect my UVs? Yes. So this means that if you have part of your UVs 90 degrees from another part and they adjoin, that you could see the seam in the UVs because of that. So it can get a little tricky. All right, so you got these guys to play with. All right, so you get the effect that you want. But, and that's all pretty straightforward. Now the fun thing, the reason why you actually need me to build you this video, is the angle. So the angle is the angle of those little stripes. I'm going to grab one of these guys that's not messed with. So just tossing out a fresh one and getting that assigned. There we go. All righty. So if I play with the angle here, it's going to change the angle of those stripes, or the abrasions, okay? Or in the case of, let's say, the dog, the angle of its fur. That probably communicates well. And yeah, so that's one of the key things to play with. Now, I like mapping things into this. All right. Now, the problem is my textures, okay, go from a value of 0 to 1. Okay, so if I toss in a let's say a bulge, it's not going to do much for me. Okay, so if I just middle mouse button this bulge into the angle, not much is going to happen because the angle's range is between 0 and 360. So what I like to do, you can just do it with multiplication, but I like using a thing called a set range. If you're going, is that sort of like set-driven key? Yes, it is. Because what we're doing is we're taking one set of numbers and equating them to another pair of numbers. So let's see. All right. And set range. Okay. So if I take the bulge and drop it into the value of the set range, and say the old min and max is 0 to 1, because the textures mathematically are set to go from 0 to 1. All right, 1 being white, 0 being black, and go to 360. Okay, so now 0 is still 0, but 1 is now 360. So the output of this, if the pixel coming in is a 50% gray, or 0.5 in the old min and max system, then the new value going out will be 180, because that's halfway between. Okay, and so then I will toss that into the angle, middle mouse button that there. All right, so now it's going, looks like I'm going to have to manually take out the value, so I'm going to do the X. I always just, if I'm doing one value, I just do the first one. It just keeps myself sane. And connect it into the angle. And there we go. Voila. So as we move the light, it's going to change this. Let's see if the new renderer can handle this. Render. All right. Well, that didn't work, so we're going to just have to go old school on this. All right. So the fun things just to quickly point out on this. If I bring up my hypershade, I'm going to pull out that bulge. The ones I like to do with this, one of my favorites is the crater. I don't know, it just always makes me happy. It's, let's see, put that into the value. All right, and so now we take a look, and voila. All right, if I scale that up, right now it's at 1 by 1. Let's make that, my plane was scaled to about 20 when I made it. All right. So as you see, that gives us a very neat effect. Okay, so now that engine turning I was telling you about earlier, let's just grab our friend the ramp. And just drop that into the value there. I'm going to take the ramp to a radial ramp, like that. Yeah, now you're starting to see where I'm going with this. Okay, and so I'm going to just take this and make it a black and white ramp. All right. Maybe I think I'm going to have to make it like that. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. And then in the Place 2D Texture node, I will say 20 by 20. Now, is it exact? Oh. Yeah, for some reason, it's a little quirky typing into there. There we go. Now, it's not exactly what we had, but it's pretty damn close. Okay, so I could do a custom texture and then layer that together. So anyhow, so that's some of the fun things you can do with the Anisotropic shader and how it works, and a little bit about using these nodes here in the Hypershade. Hope that helps. Have fun.